Getting torn up by deer here.
Oh wow.
And we're working on it. We'll have it solved pretty. That's another discussion. But these are the fiberglass hoops. If I had a glove, I'd pull one out and show you how it bends and sticks in. But you can imagine, right? Much closer spacing if you want these not to soak. You know, probably twice as many for winter. You know. Okay, so I was going to actually show you, but I don't think we have time to do that now.
You just stick them in the ground?
Pardon?
You just stick them in the ground?
Stick them in the ground. That's it.
Wow.
Just stick them in the ground. They're the easiest way to do it. They're by far the easiest system. You know.
So that's not Rime, huh?
No, this is polypropylene. It's right here's the name of it.
That's very good.
So you wouldn't,
Agribond.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't touch
Johnny's.
these with your hand just in case there's any fiberglass?
Oh, I've done it, and they always stick me when I do. You know? It's not in case. You know, if you don't have the ones that are treated not to get you, you'll get nasty little slivers that are a pain to get out.
I've gotten
Yeah.
other things. Okay.
Yeah, they're no fun. You know, I mean,
The
it's not the
shipping
end
on
of the
that is
world.
expensive, though.
You know, but if I don't have to get them, I'm happy not to get them. You know, so right now I think you can imagine me, you know, pulling one up and doing this. You know, actually, you know what? I can do it here.
Oh, yeah.
We'll show you. Nice and straight, right?
Where do you get that? Where do you get that?
I don't know if Fifth Season carries it. I don't mean to be
No, I think-
slighting them.
Yeah, Seven Springs is the main one, and they're only $1.50, but the shipping is outrageous.
So then you want to be part of one of those deliveries, you know,
Yeah.
that they just did here. But they have other ones, and create enough demand, and they'll do another delivery. They're happy to deliver, you know. It's not a big deal. It can save you a bunch of money, you know. Okay, so that, and then what I would show you if we had time, we'd actually do it, but I don't know if we have time now. But I drive a stake in, you know, going that way, so when I pulled on it, we resist, right? I'd pull my baling wire to here, wrap it around tight, and then I kind of try and keep this in place, because I'm going to be pulling it too far otherwise, right? And I go to the next one, pull it tight, and just keep doing it.
For, at the top?
Right, dead center.
Okay.
Dead center, pull it tight, it makes it way more rigid, you know?
You put what at the top there? The
Baling wire, or you could also take another one of these, or some lightweight thing, and take that little concrete tying tool and tie that across the top.
Oh, that'd
But
be cool. Just
Putting a top piece on it will make it way more rigid, you know?
Would you use plastic over this, or is that a little bit too much to put on these fiberglass?
Oh no, plastic will be fine on this. Perfectly fine. It'll work great. Yeah. This is quite fine with plastic. Yeah. I tend not to put Rime over hoops, you know, or I call it Rime. It's polypropylene. You know, I just tend not to do it. You know, I'm not saying it doesn't work. It works. I just don't do it. You know. Okay, let's see. Let's look at whatever else we can show you quick out here. I'm pretty delighted to see, despite the fact that the deer have eaten the bean leaves, the beans are still making beans.
Oh, that's awesome.
So these black things aren't helping keep the deer out of the There's not enough of them.
Oh, really?
Not enough of them, I learned.
It's safe.
Yeah.
Very typical. I don't want to get this one online. What do my guys do to get them? They throw away the directions and stick them out.
Oh no, of course.
It's a guy thing, right?
Yeah.
That's not online, right?
Hey, we'll get it out there. No problem.
Look at the loofahs. I want some loofahs like that.
Anyway, this is the kind of example of something that you already have grown that you could just cover and it'll produce like crazy. If we wanted to take the time, we could walk down and look at the pak choi and see why I shouldn't have put the daikon in there. They went in too late, you know. They went in about 10 days ago, and the pak choi was already way far along. As far as varieties go for plants, I'm a huge fan of the purple pak choi. One of the things I like a lot about it is it works fine raw too. It cooks nicely, but it works fine raw. Of course, it's only purple until you cook it. Then it turns green. This is one of those little things that nature does to us. It gives us these wonderful colors, and they all go green when you cook them.
Yeah.
With the exception of one broccoli, which kind of leaves a kind of pale, not very pretty purple. You know, you know. So you
the
got,
purple okra may stay.
I don't think it does.
No? I just asked my friend Chris.
It immediately turns green.
Does it?
You can watch it right in the pan.
Yeah.
The beans, that was
And the
disappointing.
green beans too, yeah. I wonder about
Were you
people
saying something
purple
about the steak? You had talked about
Papal
something
purple.
about having your
Yeah.
steak plants in and using that somehow for your greenhouse. I couldn't understand. I wasn't sure.
No, what I was saying is that I couldn't do. I was saying you could use the Rime to protect these from frost, or the row cover to protect these from frost, but I couldn't because our stakes are in the way. But if you didn't have stakes that were higher than the peppers, I mean, I would never pull fabric over these because the first wind would rip it up.
Yeah.
You know, but it would actually, the peppers would not be much damaged by it. You know, and these peppers, if we protect them, they could easily produce into November. You know, and you want good tasting peppers, you want sweet peppers, boy, you grow those guys into the cold. The colder it gets, the sweeter they get. You know, they slow down, but the quality goes way up.
So you couldn't weave the remake or the cover in and out of those stakes?
Oh, I possibly could, but it would be a pain in the butt, and my guys would just look at me like, okay, we don't have better things to do with our time. You know?
Heard adding things like gallons of water throughout helps.
Oh, sure,
Is
it
it
helps,
worth the
yeah.
work?
Well, what I'd recommend, if you want to do that, is that you find yourself some restaurants that buy oil, that have deep fryers, and get those 5-gallon containers. That's going to make it might have a much bigger impact. You know, much more easily created mass. Now, the truth is, smaller will gain more heat because there's more surface area.
Right.
So if you have the time to stick, you know, how many? I mean, one every few feet probably going to be a pretty small difference.
Right.
If you line the center of this thing with them, it'll probably make a big difference. You know, even more so if you had them on the outer edges so they weren't shaded and could gain the heat.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you really had all the time in the world, you could stick them in the center afterwards. You know, I mean, I can tell you how to spend all of your time in the garden,
Of course, yeah.
and you don't need me to tell you that. You can figure that out for yourself. You know. Okay, let's look at the bunching onions. Let's come down this way. This guy here, by the way, folks, we got out a little bit late tonight, but get some seeds from it. This is Tina James' Magic Evening Primrose, and at dusk, they pop open before your eyes. They're a whole lot of fun. And there's probably plenty of seed there if somebody wants some. It's a way more interesting thing to do at dusk than watching any TV
These
show, I
paper
promise
mache?
you.
No, I don't think I want.
The disturbance here is we had a groundhog, we caught it quickly, and then we filled the hole back in after putting spent kitty litter in it. The wrap there is that this time of year is when groundhogs are moving around, and if they find a hole, even one that's been filled in, it's still going to be easier to dig out. They're more likely to stick around, and they don't like spent kitty litter.
Who does?
So yeah, right. Yeah. So, that's right.
Kitties don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. So these are the bunching onions. You can see that there's now a nice little bunch where everywhere there was one before. Yeah. And I guess I'll sacrifice one to show you.
You do these by seed?
You can start them from seed easily. You could also start them from these. If I had more of these, I would offer them to you. But you can see how nice they are.
Nice.
And they'll get quite fat. I mean, they can be much bigger than this. By springtime, they'll be much bigger. And like I say, even outdoors here, the outer few layers will be slimy, but they'll come off a lot easier. The whole thing will just slide off. And see, it's already dividing into a separate onion. They just keep bunching and making more and more.
And they continue to last more than 2 years, don't they?
Oh,
I mean,
they're
basically,
perennial.
Even well, it's a biennial though, isn't it?
Well,
But it still continues to go, as my experience is, right? Until some point they rot or something else bites them or something.
yeah, I mean, I think the reason why they're perennial is because they're perennially self-seeding, like a lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll find babies all over. I mean, once you have them, you always have them.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you eat every one. You know.
And then you left the root in so that it keeps coming back and keeps the.
Yeah, the
Like
root regrow usually. Yeah, yeah. But so that's what you get. I mean, they're just a one-time thing, and then you always have them. They're really spectacular. You know. And boy, you can put the cold weather on these, and are they good? So
How do they compare to Egyptian walking onions?
I think these are more productive, personally.
Really?
You know? They do have, depending on the year, they've got a 6 to 8 week flowering time when you don't get anything from them. You know, except for the fact that they're spectacular beneficial insect plants. The bugs are all over them. They're feeding the beneficial insects, and they make tons of seed, which will just drop and make you more plant. Or you can gather the seed and plant it someplace else. They're pretty darn easy to grow. I'd say they're quite a winner. You know, the cabbage here. I talked about the plants that go through deep cold. And I think 2010, I taught a winter cooking class at John C. Campbell Folk School. And from Wade at Troy's greenhouse, I didn't have cabbage myself. I was able to buy cabbage that he had done nothing to protect it. The class was in January. We had temperatures in the teens.
And they were fine.
Perfectly fine.
And how
No
about these
damage at all.
onions? They're pretty tolerant.
They're totally tolerant. Like I say, what will happen is the outer layers will be slimy and dead, but the inside will be fine. They go right through, they take it off, you know. Highly productive. Let's see if we can do a quick walk over to the greenhouse and get back in time to show you how to do a little bit of bending.
So this looks like 10-foot spacing on these fiberglass tabs. That's enough then, in your opinion?
No, not at all for winter. This is
Okay.
simply to keep deer off.
Ah,
Yeah, you were away when I said that.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah. That's how you want your beets to look to really get a lot. Oh, can you see how poorly the daikон's doing? Much better here where it's got more air, but in there it's really kind of crowded already. It's just not going to work.
Beets.
You know?
Looking
It was a nice
beautiful.
plan, but it's not going to happen. Okay. For the people who don't know Cercospora. Oh, I'll take this one here. This is a good example.
Once you get it, it's the best
See all the
way is
little red
preventative.
spots?
Yep.
The best way is preventative with the cell pack. Once you get it, there's not a whole lot you can do, or what?
You could treat it with any of the antifungals we had.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it when they're bigger because you want to eat the leaves.
Right.
But copper's the most effective. You know, go ahead and pass it around so everybody can see it.
What do you call that again?
Cercospora
This is called the
Is
holes. Is Sakata.
disease.
Yeah, the
Is
purple.
this it?
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
all
you're
over
going to
the
see it in a
card.
minute. There it is.
We can sell it as speckled, right?
Yeah, right.
Speckled beans?
Southern
If
speckles.
you have the time to do it, if you can get rid of all of your dock, it's the vector. It's what keeps the disease.
Yeah, we have curly dogs.
Then you can control it that way. You know, don't grow them in heat and humidity, and they do quite well. It's the heat and humidity that really hits them. You know.
Yeah, full of
What is
dog
this flower back here that's just so beautiful? Right here, right off the tip of
Oh,
my
that's a
hand.
zinnia.
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 Yeah.
I wonder.
Zinnias are like summer. You know, they embody summer.
And he said,
Okay.
"What is that?"
Let's head over to the greenhouse really quick. Well, I could. Your call, right? And your vote. Would you rather see how to bend the hoops or see the finished greenhouse?
Well, you said you have a video on how to bend them.
You can see the video on how to bend them, yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to take the time for me to go up and copy it, I can give you a diagram that shows you how to do it too.
We can also put that on the website if you want, Pat.
Yeah, we can put it on the website, yeah. So here the purlins are down very low because we're not using it as a greenhouse, you know. So they're down really low. And actually I think they might be the wiggle wire now. I think that the guys just put all wiggle wire on here. So you can look at the track. And if you wanted to take some little tool, you could pop it out. It pops out pretty easy. You need something usually to get hold of the first piece. Pop it out and pop it back in pretty quick, you know. But there you can see how the door is fenced in, you know, framed in rather. And how we used to do it is we just scabbed wood to the edges here, you know, and then we pulled the plastic to that. That's how we did it for where we don't put a door. But then if you have a door, you just take the plastic and pull it around to the door. And that works fine too. Now that's if you're like me and don't mind folds. When Greg made his, he cut a separate piece of plastic because he didn't want the folds. Because if you pull it around, it's going to do all these little folds. The greenhouse doesn't really care, you know. So you can see, you know, you're bending these. Everybody understands the way we're talking about how you make a jig. And you make a jig in the ground. You bend these on it. It goes really fast. You get the knack of it really quick. The hardest part is everybody getting together and pushing these in. You know, one wants to pop out usually or whatever, but there's just the holes drilled in it there.
Isn't he one of them?
Yep, that's one of them.
Okay, if you want to demonstrate.
Yeah. Well, we can't really demonstrate without the.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
About
But
a hole in the pole.
you can all imagine it. I can evoke. I'm real good at evoking. So this is not bent yet, and what I do, because I don't have a good eye, is I use a diagram which we're going to put on the web, where you drive one post and then you have a string that I think it's 60 inches long. You bring it out, you set a post there, and then you take it, you set a post there, and then you take it, you set a post there, and you define an arc by using that string and that one post. When you have your arc all the way, right, then on the first post, you drive one post next to it. You then stick this in between the post. And the first time I did it, somebody gave me a cheater bar, but really this stuff is so pliable, you don't need a cheater bar. Cheater bar is an extension that gives you more leverage. You don't need it. You simply set it in the thing, and since I defined the arc going that way, we'll pretend it's this way. You know, you set this, it's straight now, it's not bent, right? It's just a straight thing, but it's caught between two things here. And then you just take that end, you pull it around that defined arc, except for it's going to want to spring back, so you pull it a little bit further. You know, and you pull it even a little bit further to give you that kind of Gothic bend. But pretty soon, you get it. You figure out, okay, this is exactly what I want. And you just, then you line them up to, really, even I get it, and I'm terrible at that stuff, you know. It works, anybody can do it, you know. Mine are never quite as nice as this is. This is all, Greg's got a much better eye. But the difference is, once you have the plastic on, you really don't notice it. You know? It all works great. And then what you do is you've got the one, and you set each one next to it to make sure it matches well enough. If it doesn't work quite well, you come back to your jig and you just play with it a little bit, you know. It's just easy stuff. It's just not hard, and it's totally forgivable. You can do whatever you need with it till you have it the right shape, you know. And then you drive the rebar in the ground, set these on it, and with a few people helping you, you know, pop that up there and pop them in. And I don't think we have any wood left. I think they took it all off and put the wiggle wire on.
What exactly is the wiggle wire?
It's this stuff right here, see?
It's something you attach.
It's a channel you buy.
Oh.
You screw it in with self-tapping screws, and then you just take this wire, set the plastic in there, and then jam the wire into between it. And once you've got the first one in, which is kind of hard, it just flops in real easy.
You do that one on each end?
You do it on any end that you want to contain it. They have it on the bottom here too. You know, you can use it anywhere. You can do wood with the pieces I said to get from the lumber yard and a screw gun, and it works just as well. I didn't know wiggle wire existed for 20 years, and I did fine. You know, now that I know it, I'm spoiled. I'd probably use it. Not so much for ends like that. I never even attached the end like that because I use the doors, right? But where I would use it is to close it for the winter and open it up for the summer, because then it would be very easy to do. It's kind of a pain to get out with the screw gun and move it, you know. But this thing here, I'm pretty sure that the bill was $225 for the materials used, you know. Pretty darn cheap, you know. And I mean, this is kind of beat up now. It's been hitting all that, but you can make this really tight. There's one that I made for the Highland Lake Inn, which is for Mountain Air. I mix up my resorts. For Mountain Air, that like is a very high-end little garden and all that, and it's been looking great now. It was made, I think, in 2005 or 2006. It withstood the big snow that happened in 2009 that pulled down greenhouses all over the southeast. I was busy saving my own greenhouse. I forgot about that one. When I remembered it, it was too late. The storm was over. Went and looked. It didn't get hurt at all, you know. By the way, any greenhouse, if you have a big storm coming, if you don't think you can keep up with keeping the snow off, two things. In the end, before the whole thing collapses on you, make sure you're not inside, make sure you have a knife, and just cut your plastic. It's way cheaper than a frame. You know, if you cut your plastic, snow all falls through, greenhouse doesn't come down. Yeah, you gotta get new plastic, but you don't have to repair the frame, you know.
You ever duct tape your plastic where it gets holes in it?
You actually can buy plastic that's designed for, so I use that. You can buy
a plastic tape to tape
repair
up the
plastic.
holes?
If you go to Farm Tech, they sell it. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Our
I've been
choice
using
greenhouse can order
packaging tape, but sometimes it disintegrates.
Yeah, right. This doesn't disintegrate. The thing I was going to say is the other thing you can do is you come in, and I use poplar saplings, but anything that's a good stout, like a 4x4 would be good. Something thicker than a 2x4. They learned in that snowstorm because the 2x4s broke. And actually, you want to put a piece of plywood on the ground underneath it, because what also happened in that storm was they just drove the supports right into the ground, and put one underneath each rib, and you could survive almost anything if you do that well enough.
Just temporarily in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going away for Christmas, great time to do it. You know, when will there be a heavy snow?
Good time to do it. Bob Corneghi helped me build my greenhouse.
Oh, great!
And
yeah.
we used a locust that was on my land, and we put about 3 posts. It's about as long as this greenhouse. We put 3 posts in it, and then we made a path in the middle with little keyholes off. But we used the locust across the top, and we married the 2 top pieces of plastic together with those little connectors that you get. They're kind of like this, and we just glued those in, and we put that over the top of the central pole that was already, I mean, to give it some sturdiness in the middle. And I've never had any collapse. I've had some heavy snow.
Bob knows his stuff. Actually, the greenhouse that I talked about, the first one that my friends helped me make, Bob was actually living on our land. He helped us to plant it.
Yeah.
So it had everything going for it. You know.
Yeah.
Bob's a genius.
It's a sweet. He talks a lot, so it takes him a while to get it built. It doesn't get built in a very short
Bob
period
does
of
have a
time.
lot to say. Most of it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. That's the trouble with it. Yeah. Hours went by before we got that greenhouse built.
I'm sure.
And actually 2 or 3 visits.
Okay.
What did they call it?
Perlin.
Nothing happened. We just talked the whole time.
I'd probably put him on this greenhouse about here. Because this is facing in a way that's not going to catch the sun. You know, if I was facing it so the sun was going to hit it in the morning, and if I was facing it so the sun wasn't going to hit it in the morning or in the afternoon, so I wouldn't get that major swing in heat up, then I would put them up high. You know, if I have it so that there's a north side and a south side to the broad side, then I put the north side down low and the south side up high. You know, because I want to create that, you know, that convection that occurs when cool air comes in and hot air goes out. You know, but if it's set up so that there's no big swing that way, if it's set up what I think the right way, so it's facing north-south, then you don't really have that effect.
You still want to put the purlins.
I put them about 3 feet then on both sides so I can roll it up and get real good air circulation in the summer.
And how do you tack it down, like at the bottom?
At the bottom here, they've used the wiggle wire again, but we used wood.
No, I mean if you had a purling that was like a foot up, how would you tack it down on the bottom?
That's what I was saying. I'd probably put a second one there now with wiggle wire. What I used to do is I had the plastic longer and I dropped cinder blocks and tires on it.
Yeah.
It was pretty messy.
Yeah.
You know, it worked for 20 years though.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but you know, there's better ways. And now that I've seen the wiggle wire, I'd say that the wiggle wire is where it's at.
And then you can just lift that out, or you
Yeah, it just
unscrew
pops out. You take a screwdriver and pop out the first little piece, and then the whole thing just you wiggle it out. You lean one way, lean the other way, and it pops right out.
Oh.
It's very easy and intuitive once you got it. And when we get back and get a screwdriver, I could show somebody if you need to see it. But it'll take you 2 minutes to figure it out when you've got it. You know. So you can bring the sidewalls up. You have the doors open, and if you can bring the sidewalls up to about 3 feet. I've never had one overheat. If I was in South Carolina, I might bring it up to about 5 feet. You know?
Do you roll it? I mean,
can-
I'm not sure how
You can roll it up.
and then tack it on the purlin or something.
You know, what I did was I rolled it up and I came by and stuck like notched boards underneath it to keep it up. That's what we do
okay.
here too.
Oh, okay.
But you can, what I described is easily for this, and for a longer greenhouse you have to work on it, but you can make a long enough pipe for almost any greenhouse, and then you just make a crank handle and put it on the end, and by rolling it up, it rolls up on itself. It just cranks right up. It works really elegantly. Elegantly, not eloquently. It doesn't make a single sound. It's
It has
not at
a
all
lot to
eloquent.
say
It's
for
very
itself.
elegant. And then when you got it up here, you'd have some little thing that you could wrap a string around both so that it stay put. Like just have a nail or something sticking out here and take a string and wrap it around both. It would sit there. You know. You might want to have a crank on either end though, because it'll sag otherwise.
Yeah.
One side will be higher than the other,
Right.
depending on your length. You know.
Crank it with somebody.
Yeah. A 90-degree one there and a 90-degree one there. This is that long. That's that long. You know. That's it. You know. And then it goes. Okay. See, I just wish this was short. Pretend that this what you're looking at with this one here is only that long. Okay. That's all you need. And then this one's only this long. You got yourself a crank handle.
There's one with a T at the end.
Yeah. Well then. So then.
size.
Yeah.
That's a long one. But that's like we're gonna have one long one.
Well, that's the one. This is what the plastic goes on.
Right.
This is the arm that comes out, and then you have a crank handle that comes out this way, and you just turn it. Turn it up on itself. That's all there is to it. It's that easy. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can have Diane put it on the web, you know, with the diagram. We can draw a crank handle.
You could also just have the pipe and just roll it with your hands.
Yeah, it's harder. If you have leverage, it's faster. You know.
But there's a little, just hold it in the middle.
Yeah, that'd work too. That's right. Believe me, that crank handle is so elegant. It really is. I wish it was eloquent too, but it's definitely elegant. You know? Look up the Amazon price and get them to give you the
Yeah,
Amazon
I'm
price.
still on it. Always have been. You know, this media thing.
Good for you. Really glad you stuck with
With the fabric, you mean?
Yeah, some of your rows are covered with fabric.
Right, they're covered with fabric right now to keep deer off. Eventually they'll be covered to make things grow better.
Watermelon.
Right now
Well,
it's deer fabric.
yeah.
Sweet potato.
Oh no,
corn,
the black fabric.
okra.
That's
He has a
weed
whole line of
control.
seeds.
This year, because of so much rain, we couldn't get in the garden and we got nutsedge everywhere. So that's like, that fabric will put a hard hit on the weeds, and then we'll come back and maybe we'll hit it with a little bit with a stirrup hoe if we need to, but it'll do very little working the soil. We can still sow a cover crop. So it's just, we're trying always to figure out ways not to work the soil. You know, every way we can not work the soil means our soil, every time you work the soil, you incorporate a lot of oxygen, you break up all that incredible web of life, right? And that web of life is not only broken up, but it's just gotten tons of food. So it feeds like crazy, eating up what? Your carbon that you're working so hard to get in there.
What about that top layer you were talking about, that first inch and a half?
That's, if you're going to work anything, that's what to work.
That's pretty
For
much
a
all
fine-
you want to work?
As much as possible. I don't say never work the soil. This is, you know, the big expert for me on this, we just had him last month, Dr. Ron Morris. You can see the video. You know, he refers to what he's now working on. He was the scientist for no-till, conventional no-till. You know, use Roundup to not work the soil, which kind of a trade-off in the end. I think maybe you should work the soil a little bit. Roundup is very toxic stuff. We learned that it's more toxic all the time. But at the time, it made sense. You know, it was a good idea. He retired into organic, but it can't be no-till because you cannot have a farm where you won't eventually get really nasty invasives and you have to till to kill them. So he calls it low-till. So you till only as much as you have to. You know? And that's what we're doing here. We do very infrequent tillage.
Don't you want to break up the clods though if you have like real cloddy soil?
The only reason to break up clods is if you need a fine seed bed for carrots and that top inch is it. Otherwise, you're breaking the clods up is making life harder for the plants. Much harder.
Yeah, Pat did
Yeah.
that oilseed radish, right? He broke up a really tough subsoil with cover crops.
Yeah, you can read online. You can use cover crops to break the soil up. Use life to break the soil up. It does it in a way that we do not have the skill, the dexterity, the vision, the micro ability to do. You know, you're not doing your soil a favor trying to get rid of those clods. Now, pick your best bed for carrots, but if it's not a great bed, like I said, go with microbes, go with teeth, go with things like that, you know? Yeah, and grow like the Kinko carrots and the stubbier ones while you're developing your soil. But the oilseed radish, this really neat cover crop called Phacelia tanacetifolium or tansy leaf Phacelia. It's the same family as comfrey and borage, really big strong roots, and rye. Those are all great things for breaking the soil open.
How about comfrey is the way?
Well, the problem with comfrey is once you have it there,
Yeah, so you've always got it.
yes, right. So get its much more well-behaved cousin, Phacelia tanacetifolium.
Okay.
She knows when to leave. You know?
Yeah.
Comfrey just doesn't know when it's over.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it still thinks it's there. You know,
Yeah, but you can still make medicine out of it.
Comfrey's a spectacular plant.
Yeah.
You know, it's a wonderful bioaccumulator. It's got its place. It's probably not in a bed where you want to grow carrots.
Yeah. It's supposed to be great
Yeah.
for feeding chickens too. Pat has a whole cover crop talk on the website also about all that stuff, and he shows them in the greenhouse.
Oh, great.
It's really great. If you just explore that farm video page, it's just every workshop and everything on there. It's really nice. And if anyone has a question, Pat answers them. If you email us a question, he'll answer it on our show on Tuesdays. Hey, Pat, I was wondering if you were going to tell them about that special way to cultivate the ectomycorrhizal fungi, like with holly trees and stuff, by piling leaves up.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because that was so neat.
What we did there was we took a compost pile. What we did was we put a compost pile under a holly tree. And my friend John Nilsson is, Mr. Compost, and he came out and said, "Why would you put it there? The tree's just going to use it up." And before he could say it to me, I've been thinking, I wonder if that tree has the same mycorrhizae as vegetables, because some trees have ectomycorrhizae. Vegetables don't much have ectomycorrhizae, but a lot of trees have endomycorrhizae, vascular or buscular. It's basically vessels and little things that look like trees. If you look at it under a microscope, it looks like a bunch of little pipes and a bunch of trees, like Christmas tree kind of things. So it's called vascular or buscular or VAM mycorrhizae. I looked it up, and the site to look it up at, I think we have this on the webpage.
Mycorrhizal applications.
Mycorrhizal applications. If you can't spell that, go to our website and look it up.
Resources page has
Yeah.
every resource.
Yeah. And so I went to their website and I looked it up, and lo and behold, holly has the same mycorrhizae as vegetables. And so by the time John got here to complain again about us letting the tree eat all the compost, I said, well, let's look and see. I think we probably have some mycorrhizal inoculation happening in our compost. Sure enough, we looked and he could see it. He's like, okay, I guess you're right about that one. You know?
It was amazing. It was like that $41 a little jar stuff. He was cultivating it by piling up, and you can pile up leaves too. I've heard under those.
Yeah, you can pile up
those
leaves
trees.
and let them become leaf mold. And what's going to happen? The roots of those trees are going to grow into that. So that's what happens. The trees already have, quote, quote, are infected or inoculated with these mycorrhizae. And what's the tree going to do? It's going for the nutrients. So it's going to put its roots where the nutrients are, which is in your pile. And mycorrhizae are always about making spores, so they're going to be inoculating it with spores. And you now have a mycorrhizal inoculated compost or leaf mold. You know,
Wow.
it's a pretty simple thing to do.
I've got a big holly tree. I could
Pile all your leaves under it.
The thing is, maybe your holly tree's in the wrong place in the yard. Go online and see all the different trees that work. Find the tree that works best for everything you're doing. Maybe under the holly tree is not where you want leaves.
It's right, yeah, because it's right next to the house.
Yeah, so you probably don't want it there, but I bet you have trees that will work, you know?
Yeah.
There
There's
are
a whole
plenty of
list
trees
of
that
all
work
the
that way.
trees that work on that mycorrhizal application site. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's such a neat thing to know about.
It's a little off topic, but I think we're at an off topic.
It's kind of winter gardening-ish though, you know, when you pile leaves up, you know.
Well, okay, you know, actually it's not off topic because in the wintertime, basically your soil life goes dormant, with one exception, mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae are the life engine in the soil in the winter. The bacteria, they're sound asleep. They're just sleeping it out. They're like the ladybugs, but the mycorrhizae are still working.
So if you put your compost under like a holly tree, and you're saying that then the holly tree puts its roots up in, then the roots are like coming out of the ground essentially.
Oh, yeah,
to
sure.
go into that.
Yeah, and they're going to be using some of your compost up. But
Yeah.
that stuff that's right at the interface is going to be loaded with mycorrhizae. You wait too long, it'll all be gone. The tree will just eat it all.
Right.
You know.
Just keep
But there's this
adding to
nice
it and mix it
window
around.
where you get this nice stuff, and you could also just
Cultivating.
use leaf mold, either one. You know.
Awesome.
So I'm always willing to store some compost under a nice, properly mycorrhizal tree. And you know what? To me, it's worth it. You know.
Yeah.
The tree's getting a nice meal. We're getting some nice mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae's having a good time. It's working for everybody.
When you use some of it to inoculate
All
another
your
compost.
veggies.
Yes.
Your veggies
Well, no,
and
yeah, you're-
other compost piles.
No, you don't inoculate a compost pile because the mycorrhizae is only in a spore form that you're going to get there.
Oh.
It needs to have living roots, right? It has to have a mycorrhizal relationship. So you could, what John Nielsen says, a great way to grow mycorrhizae would be to grow something like Bahia grass, which we know is very mycorrhizal, in a windrow, right?
In a what?
A little hill of nice soil, real nice soil,
Huh.
right? And either inoculated or be pretty certain that it is inoculated. And then when it's really well grown, pull up the grass and wash the soil off, and then pour that soil on the places where you want the mycorrhizae.
That water.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
And then you got the mycorrhizae, you know. Yeah, I'd say I would never buy mycorrhizae more than once or twice, you know. And then you can set up situations where they're naturally occurring.
Yeah,
You know?
those onions sound great.
Yeah, the onions is a real winner, you know, because they're bunching, they come back, you know, and you can move them around.
Gotta run.
Very welcome.
Really enjoy
Yay, thank you, Mariah. Good to see you.
it. I haven't seen him in a long time. Last time I saw him was at the organic garden.
That's right, last time.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
Oh, you're very welcome.
That's
Absolutely.
Good
Thanks for
night.
telling me about
All
that.
right,
Yay, I'm so glad you come.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay, great. See you later.
Okay.
Well, we should
you're very welcome.